Greetings, everybody. This is your girl Tiffany here, coming through live in effect. So tonight, the subject is going to be about Priscilla Mother Baltimore, who was the founder of Brooklyn, Illinois. So I'm going to be going into her history, and I'm going to be talking about the founding of Brooklyn, Illinois. All right. So as you know, March is Women History Month, and we have to pay homage and respect to those women who have made a contribution throughout history. And of course, there's things that's been taking place that's positive, negative, good, bad, ugly, etc. But before I get started, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, share the channel, and all that great stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and share some information on who was Priscilla Mother Baltimore. So as you guys can see right here, I'm on a website called colorconvention.org. And Priscilla's Baltimore bedroom that night was organized the first African Methodist church in the West. All right, so her story goes like this. Priscilla Baltimore Moore purchased her own freedom and then labored tirelessly for the freedom of others. She was born around 1801 in Bourbon, Kentucky. Her mother was an enslaved woman. Her father was a white enslaver. As Reverend T.W. Henderson recounts at her funeral in 1882, Baltimore was first sold at the age of 8 and then sold a second time and finally sold to a Methodist missionary who brought her to the St. Louis area. There, Baltimore converted to Methodism and began preaching to enslaved women and men. All right. So it then goes on to say, after about 7 years of laboring in St. Louis, Baltimore had saved enough money to purchase her own freedom from the Methodist preacher. Oral histories tell us that to oral history tells us that to purchase her mother's freedom, she bought and mortgaged property in St. Louis. While there, she also married Louis Cotton, who died of cholera just 3 weeks after they wed. She then married John Baltimore, an enslaved man who went on to help her found the town of Brooklyn, Illinois, after she purchased his freedom as well. In addition to paying for her freedom, Baltimore was required to post a bond of $500 for a license to reside in the state of Missouri. So, in the late 1820s, accompanied by Baltimore, 11 Black families across the Mississippi River. Some were enslaved and some were free, but all sought new opportunities in normally free state of Illinois. This group of Black migrants started the town of Brooklyn, Illinois in 1829. Priscilla and John's home became their place of worship. William Paul Quinn, a traveling AME minister, visited the town in the 1830s and helped establish what would become known as the Brooklyn AME Church, the first African Methodist church in the West. In the early 1840s, John and Priscilla bought several pieces of land in town, with one of which became the site of the church. All right, so here's a letter. Know all men by these presents. All right, so it says that we, Priscilla Baltimore, as principal, and I can't even read their handwriting right there. Okay, so it's the license basically. So it says Priscilla Baltimore obtained a license to live in St. Louis County, Missouri in 1861. This document showed that a man named John Riggins posted a bond of $500 so she could receive the license. Baltimore signed the agreement with an X as her mark. So yes, it is true. If blacks, if free blacks want to move to a state, right, that's considered as a slave state, They had to purchase and get a license just to live in that particular state. So in order for Priscilla Baltimore to live in the state of St. Louis, state of Missouri, she had to get a license and post a $500 bond. And that's just how it was back then. Now imagine we were still living in that time period. Imagine. I can only imagine. So it goes on to say Priscilla Baltimore helped make the town of Brooklyn a refuge from enslavement, though her home would have been a very small house without any sort of plumbing and a cistern for rainwater, wrote archaeologist Joe Golly. It was a major site of resistance to slavery. She understood from firsthand experience, wrote historian Cheryl LaRoche. The cost of both slavery and freedom, her abolitionism, earned her the sobriquet, the Moses of the West. And that's funny. They call her the Moses of the West because Harriet Tubman was considered as Moses. But anyway, it says one story particularly exemplified the dangers residents faced as they stood up to the institution of slavery. A fugitive was sheltering with a black Brooklynite named William Copper, who, when slave catchers rode into town, determined to recapture the runaway, they murdered Copper. Priscilla Baltimore's adopted son, Milton Copper, may have been the child of this martyr to the cause of freedom. And then it goes on to say that the town of Brooklyn was incorporated in 1873, officially becoming the first black town in America. Meanwhile, Baltimore moved back to St. Louis by the 1870, pursuing lawsuits to recover real estate she had lost in Brooklyn, working as a domestic and becoming involved with civic life in the city. After her husband passed away, she lived with her adopted son, Milton, who worked as a laborer. Baltimore died in 1882, leaving $2,000 to the AME Church of St. Louis. Her funeral filled the large St. Paul's AME Chapel, another congregation in Baltimore had helped organize. Even the stairways were filled with a mass of spectators, reported the St. Louis Globe Democrat. The outpouring was the largest of its kind ever seen in this vicinity, continued the article, and was a manifestation of respect to the memory of Mother Baltimore, whose life was repelled with well-doing and adventure. She rests in the now free soil of Belafonte Cemetery in St. Louis. All right, so what a history. So this woman sacrificed her life, right, along with her husband, to come into a free state of Illinois to find a city where blacks who is trying to escape from slavery can come and have their own land, have their own resources, right? Now, is the city still there today? Yes, it is. Okay. So let's go more into the history. All right. So right down here, here's the website. It's called histoarc.illinois.edu/Brooklyn. So it's Brooklyn, Illinois Archaeology and Heritage Project. Okay. So as you can see, the map of Illinois, and right here at the bottom, you got St. Louis. So right over here, this is considered as East St. Louis because it's east of St. Louis, right? But it's over here in Illinois. So East St. Louis will be right over here. And Brooklyn, Illinois is close to St. Louis. is right across. Okay. Brooklyn was established in the 1820s across the Mississippi River from St. Louis and the slave state of Missouri. It was started as a settlement of African Americans escaped in slavery and later became the first black town in America to be incorporated. The growing town was also called Lovejoy in honor of the abolitionist Elijah Lovejoy, who was killed by a pro slavery mob in nearby Alton, Illinois in 1837. So Brooklyn grew as a community of craftspeople, laborers, and their family. A plat of town was filled in 1837, and in 1873, it became the first African American town to be incorporated. The goals of a new archaeology and historical research project are to understand how ethnicity, class, religion, racism, and developing markets influence the ways of which individuals and families of this community made choices in shaping their natural and social and built environments and in developing particular social tradition and economic strategies. All right, so I'm gonna skip all of this. All right, so basically, this is just a reference. That's all. And so here's the book called America's First Black Town, Brooklyn, Illinois, by Sanjeta Kita Chauja. If I'm saying it right, Sanjeta Kita Chauja. Okay, so you can check this book out. It says wood engraving of pro-slavery riot in Alton, Illinois on November 7th of 1837, which resulted in the murder of Elijah P. Lovejoy. Okay, so it was a riot taking place. All right, so New Philadelphia, Illinois was also founded by a black person named Frank Mehorder, all right, who was a former slave himself. All right, it's not far from there either. So go further down. And it says the community initiated by Free Frank and Mother Baltimore had much in common. Both emerged from African American self-activity, and both became spaces hospitable to blacks fleeing the fetter of slavery during this period. Brooklyn differed from New Philadelphia mainly because it was majority black town and offered the opportunities to join organization and participate in black control institution. Perhaps Brooklyn during the antebellum period was more closely resembled what Free Frank Mehorder had vision for New Philadelphia. So it says Brooklyn was very active in the Underground Railroad of African Americans escaped in bondage and antebellum. Miss Baltimore, a formerly enslaved laborer, became active in the Methodist Church and later assisted the influential Reverend William Paul Quinn in establishing a Methodist Church in Brooklyn. Right in 1836, Quinn Chapel African Methodist Episcopal Church was built and established in Brooklyn as the first AME church in the Midwest region. So this church was under Reverend Quinn's leadership was a known hub of activities advocating abolition, aiding escapes or escapees, as were a series of strategically placed AME churches throughout the Illinois region. Okay. Anti Baptist Church, built in Brooklyn in 1838, was also active in these efforts. Brooklyn's role in assisting individuals escaping from slavery and supporting abolition were also evident in the fact that community was also called Lovejoy. Elijah Lovejoy was a pedestrian minister, journalist, and newspaper publisher who became an ardent and vocal abolitionist. He was murdered, and his publishing house and printing press were destroyed by a pro-slavery mob in 1837. All right, so these are the churches today. All right. So this is the view of Brooklyn in the 1940s. And there's Brooklyn, Illinois. That's the Mississippi River. And there's St. Louis, Missouri. Let's see. Let's look up more information. Historical Society of Brooklyn, Illinois. All right. So the oldest black town. Okay, it says the focus of our work is to collect, preserve, and present the historical record and cultural heritage of the first inhabitants, founding families, and early settlers of Brooklyn, Illinois. Okay, so let me see what it says. Who the first black mayor? Mayor Nathaniel O. Bannon the third. Okay, that's the mayor. Let me see. All right. So that's all the information. All right, so there's an article, a recent article that just came out about a few days ago regarding to Brooklyn, Illinois. The city is not thriving as it once was. So it's a major fight to keep the city around. And so let's go into that. Ooh. How Black history defined the town of Brooklyn, Illinois, and why the community is fighting to preserve its past. So this article came out on February 28th, 2025. And this come from NBC 5 in St. Louis, Missouri. All right, so it says Brooklyn, Illinois is a beacon of resilience and freedom. As the oldest black town in the United States, Brooklyn also helped form the tracks that made up the Underground Railroad and remains an exceptional chapter in the story of the pursuits of life, liberty for the millions of Black Americans who were enslaved in this country. Settled in 1829, Brooklyn was officially incorporated as a town in 1873. Five on your side, Sydney Stallworth spent the day in the historic town meet up with Hakeem Abdul Rashid, a representative of the Historical Society of Brooklyn, to learn about its founding. Abdul Rashid told Stallworth, Brooklyn is an example of the strength and courage of Black people, even in the face of the utmost adversity. We're always being resilient, finding a better way, he added. All right. So it had multiple names. It was called the Lovejoy Town, and then according to this article, it said it was initially named Freedom Village. Brooklyn was founded by Baltimore and the brave families who sought to escape the horrors of enslavement and create a place where others could do the same. It was originally called Freedom Village, said Abdul Rashid. Mother Baltimore and the founding families created an environment where individuals could find the ideal or the ability to move away from an environment that was enslaving to them. All right, so going further down, it says while Brooklyn's story had been overlooked in the past, there are efforts underway to bring its rich history to the forefront. Research projects like the Brooklyn Public Engagement Program use science and archaeology to uncover more about the town's early days. According to Abdul Rashid, these studies include archaeological digs, information related to relics of the past. Historians with the Historical Society of Brooklyn, Illinois, are hopeful that one day Brooklyn will be commemorated as a National Historic Site. Abdul Rashid said the effort to sustain Brooklyn's history is not only about preserving the past, but also providing a source of pride and identity for the community. He adds, this redirects them to the essence of who they are, underscoring the importance of understanding the town's historical significance. Despite setbacks in the past, such as an unsuccessful bid by the Illinois State Archaeological Society to designate Brooklyn as a historical district, there are renewed efforts underway. In September of 2024, the Illinois State Archaeological Society returned to Brooklyn to conduct further archaeological digs, gathering more artifacts to support another submission for heroic designation for Brooklyn, which is still pending, according to the Historical Society of Brooklyn, Illinois President Robert White III. Meanwhile, Hakeem Abdul Rashid reminds us, let's celebrate the work. It's not done. Yes, we've made some tremendous gains, but we're not done. There's way more work to do. And that's the article. All right, so that's the information on Priscilla Mother Moore. I'm Baltimore. I keep saying Mother Moore. I'm thinking about Queen Mother Moore, but Priscilla Mother Baltimore and the founder of Brooklyn, Illinois. Now, I just want to get in and to say something before I close out. Give my final thoughts. Many of our people have tried to sacrifice to create a safe space where others can seek freedom from enslavement. And there's been so many criticism, especially those within the conscious community, as they want to call themselves, and those who consider themselves to be atheists. Yes, there's so many criticism about the church and or about the mosque, etc. Now, I do understand people may not agree with the philosophy, the ideology, or what have you. However, let's look at the contribution that these church has made in the past regarding to slavery. These churches, the AME church, all the way on down to like Pan-African churches, they have made a major contribution within the Black community. They were the safe havens for many African Americans during slavery. And because of the church, right, you had opportunities. You had schools that was built. You know what I'm saying? You had organization. You had cities. You have community leaders, religious leaders operating together and fight for a political cause, for a social cause. Now, these churches today, not too many of them are really putting their primary focus on the liberation, but more so on making profit. As long as capitalism is there, that's all that matters, right? However, 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 we cannot sit here and continue to throw shade at these religious institutions. We cannot continue to throw shade at our ancestors because we did not agree with some of their principle or ideology. You got to remember, these people is trying to make a way for themselves. These people was trying to find safety. And because of what they did, it opened up the opportunity for all of us. And if it wasn't for them, will we be where we are today? Will we be able to go live in certain neighborhoods that we want to live in, or go to certain schools that we want to go to or attend to? If it wasn't for these ancestors, right, whether they were Christian or not, Muslims or not, they stood for something. They fought for something. They put their lives on the line. These people risked their lives to make sure that we today don't have to experience exactly what they had to go through. Because what they went through was very horrifying. It was very traumatizing, And I hear so many people talk about, well, I would have done this if I was around that time period. You don't know what the hell you would have done. You probably wouldn't even be able to do anything. You thinking in a modern mindset. You're not thinking in the time of the 1800s or the 1700s or even the 1600s. You're not thinking like that. So, and you don't know what it's like to actually go through and experience the horror of slavery. You don't know because you have not been in that predicament. You only know what it's like to grow up in the environment that you grew up in. That's all you know. But we got people to talk about, well, how Christianity done messed our people up, how Islam messed our people up, religion done messed our people up. Yeah, but that was their only salvation. I mean, what other religions could they practice here in America? They had to take the white man's religion and incorporate into African spirituality. And then for those of you that's in the Christian religion that's criticizing people for practicing African spirituality, guess what? Y'all wouldn't be where y'all at today if it wasn't for that. A lot of y'all got African spiritual system inside your church and you don't even know it. You don't know it. And then I want to address this whole thing with these so-called black organization out here. How many of y'all actually take the time out to look up all these black cities that was founded by former enslaved and pay homage? How many of y'all go to these neighborhoods that were founded by former slaves and give credit to these people? How many of y'all are really trying to put up the fight to preserve these historical landmarks? How many of you ever visit down to the plantation where our ancestor was once enslaved and working on, whether it be the tobacco, cotton, rice, etc.? When last time have y'all ever go and visit those areas to pay homage? To pay homage to those people. When was the last time y'all did it? But yet and still you talking about I'm a proud black American, right? I love this country. I love the freedom that we have. I love this thing other, but you don't pay homage to the people that made the way. If you really love what your ancestor did, you will learn so much about them, right? You will do whatever you can to preserve the information, to preserve the history, to study the information, to learn about the historical land site, right? To go pay homage to those locations where these people used as the Underground Railroad to get to freedom. You guys will pay homage. You guys will do what you can to fight. A lot of black people are not fighting to protect and preserve the lands which their ancestors have built. They're not. They're not putting money together and say, hey, we gonna make sure that we keep this building over here. Or we gonna keep this area over here. Hell, a lot of y'all ain't even fighting for the cemeteries. These cemeteries getting taken over by investors. I read an article one day that it was a cemetery somewhere out in Virginia, I believe, Virginia or South Carolina, one of those states, that they were going to remove the bodies from the area and put them somewhere else just so they can build some type of establishment over there, some type of business. No, it was some type of park they wanted to build. It was some type of park they want to put over there, but they wanted to remove the cemetery, take the bodies, and put them somewhere else. And it's not too many people fighting for those areas. But yet still you saying that I'm a proud black American and I am happy. This is my land, etc. This is the land that my ancestors built and all. And these immigrants got to stay away from over here. Our ancestors built this country, but you're not preserving the areas. You're not preserving the cities. You're not fighting to keep these communities around. You allow the investors to come in and take over. Kill me with that shit about this is your land, this is your community. Kill me with that. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear about this is your land. And you're not fighting to preserve the historical landmarks. You're not fighting to preserve the communities that was founded by your ancestors. You're not paying homage to your ancestors. You're not even taking a diligent time to study, but yet and still you'll go study some pseudo information and call that history. You'll let somebody sit here in your face, play in your goddamn face, and rewrite information. But I'm done. That's my final thought. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening or wherever your time zone may be. And happy Ramadan Mubarak. Ramadan Mubarak to all you beautiful people that celebrating Ramadan. Hope you guys enjoyed your Ramadan. Hope you guys was able to fast and be able to spend some quality time with your family. All right. So peace and power and elevation. This your girl Tiffany, and I'm out.